I'm sure that everybody that puts one of these superchargers on runs into the same problem. If the motor's in it, you can't get the rear bolts to the lid on. There's 4 of them. And it's like, other than dropping the K member out of the car, it's probably an impossibility. So basically, here's how I'm gonna do it. Might be the right way, might be the wrong way, might not be your way, but this is the way I'm doing it. So if it helps anybody, great. So what I did was I made some little pegs. Now, I didn't get the right size metric thread because they didn't have any all thread. So I just ground the end down to a peg. Just slide the peg in here, just like that. Use some nuts to space the lid up, and let's see how this works. So you're gonna wanna drop the lid on the pegs, just like that. I can't see the other side, so I'll probably have to go over there and play with it. You can adjust the nuts and take some measurements and get this lid square with the actual supercharger. Once you get this thing square, take some measurements, measure from here to here, here to here, make sure it's square, make sure it's this way, make sure it's on there okay, and drop it down as far as you can. Now here's the bolts. You can get to this bolt. You can't get to this, this, or this. So you got 4 bolts here in the back that no matter what you do, you're not gonna get them. This is 5 inches. 5 inches on all 4 corners. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take another peg. The holes you can't reach, which this isn't one of them because obviously I'm just gonna do this so you can see it easily. You drop that peg down, everything is, make sure that the lid is close to where it's gonna be. Drop that down, you can mark it right there, and that's where you gotta drill your holes. I'm obviously gonna do it back here where I can't get to, but you're actually marking the holes. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't wanna put a hole in this thing the size of a 1-inch hole saw so I can get a socket in there. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to fasten this lid down with these. Now if I put these in here, the only thing that I have to get in there is, say, this. So all I have to do is drill a hole back here that this can go down in. That's all the bigger the hole has to be, right there. I don't have to have a hole this big to get a socket down there, only this. So that's what I'm doing here. I've made my marks right there. As you can see, little black marks in there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna drill a small hole right there where I made my mark. And then what I'll do is I'll drop like a little tiny Allen wrench in there to make sure that I've got my hole in the correct spot. All right. The hole's drilled, and as you can see, it slides right down in there, goes right down through the hole, right there, and right there, goes right down through the hole. So I got the first 2 holes drilled for the pilot holes. Now all I got to do is drill it big enough to get the Allen wrench through there. And then these ones are gonna be the tough ones. As you can see, they gotta drop down from here So those are going to be a little more difficult, but still not a problem. Okay, all 4 of my holes are drilled for the fasteners that I cannot access from here. So we've got one here. One here, you can see I left the Allen key in it just to show you how it lines up, how I'm lining them up. One here, right there, and the other one right there. So now we've got to determine what size hole we need to put in this thing. Here's the fasteners I'm using, and that's the Allen key I'm going to use. So when this thing's drilled out, boom, drop this in here, tighten it on down, good to go. So what I'm probably going to do is I'll probably just drill the hole the same size as the head of the bolt. I think that's probably going to be the easiest thing to do, and which is probably about the same size as the top of this Allen key, maybe a tiny bit bigger. But another thing, if you drill the holes and they're a little bit off, if you drill the holes and you missed it by a ½ inch, here's what you can do. When you go get your tools, get it with a rounded end on your Allen key, and it'll go in there at a little bit of an angle. So if you don't get it perfect, don't worry about it. You can still get this thing tightened down, and shouldn't be a problem. So I'll go ahead and drill my next size holes, and then should be very accessible. Now, what I would do is when you get your hole drilled, maybe go to the hardware store and get some plugs, silicone some plugs in these holes, because the rainwater is going to lay in here, and eventually, probably not because it's on another level up here, probably not, but it could run water down and laying on the intake manifold down in here, so I don't really recommend that. So even if you just get some little tiny plugs, silicone the plugs in, or just simply just silicone across the hole. If you need to access it, just peel the silicone out, but I wouldn't leave that open because water could just run and lay on the back of the engine, which it's sealed. It's not really gonna make a big difference, but it's just water laying where it shouldn't be anyway. So, all right, let's get to drilling. So I got my caliper. The bolt head is 388. The tool I'm going to use at its widest point is 278. And now we can go along and find some drill bits. 388. This drill bit's 355. So it's basically, it's in the middle. I think it's good enough. So we got our drill bit. Now we need to enlarge those holes and see if I actually did this correctly. Now when you're drilling these, you are drilling down onto the supercharger lid because you don't want to just leave this open because we're dealing with metal shavings and those could go in the engine. So when you're drilling, be careful because you're going to drill right into the lid and mess up your paint job. my vacuum handy, so I'm gonna go along here with a magnet and sort of pick up some of these metal shavings. Get that picked up. I've blown all this out. Obviously, we have to be very, very careful here because of the metal shavings, but I've blown around here and believe I've got everything out of there, but I'm still gonna be very, very careful about how I take this lid out. I don't want to drop anything in the engine. Got my phone sitting in here so you can kind of see what's going on, but there's my tool. There's the hole. There's the bolt that I have to get to. It's in that hole right there. Same thing with the back. There it is right there. Boom. Last time the lid's going on for now at least. So I've got my fasteners in the back. I'm missing a few because the hardware store didn't have all of them. So I'm gonna gently set this on. All the gaskets are in place. The brick gasket, the perimeter gasket for the lid. Get a few of these started in the front, and then we'll go to the back and make sure that those holes are perfect or at least close enough. Put a few in the front so you know that the lid is being held down, because if something happens in the back and they're not actually threading into the supercharger body, then it could start lifting the lid up and doing weird stuff. So there's the first one. It slid right in perfect. These are going to be the hard ones because they're so far away from the bolt, and we're trying to get through that felt. It feels like this one's going in. Just tighten up. Let's see if we can hit the last two here in the back. That one is off just a tiny bit. It's in the fastener and it's not going to be a problem, but you can see that thing is not exactly straight. It's close, but not exactly. All right, that one's tight. Now, once again, we got to try to get through this felt to get down to the fastener. There's that one. These ones are a little more, I mean, this hole is basically the exact size of that. So if you guys want to make your lives a little bit easier, then make them holes a little bit bigger, but I'm just trying to see how small I can make the holes in this cowl. I just didn't want to have huge holes. So there you go. They're in. It's all good. 30 minutes, 45 minutes tops, and it'll always be accessible, and it works perfect. So don't drill huge holes in your Camaro. This works out just fine. Good luck with it.